Thanks to Headley, and thanks to the Resource Rising Stars team and the Reed corporate team for another opportunity to come here and present to yourselves in the room and tuning in online. I guess the key with Gateway, and just got our usual disclosure. There we go. So Gateway's been here at Resource Rising Stars for a number of years. A number of our shareholders in the audience probably pretty familiar with the story and what's been going on. And I guess the key to make here, and the whole point of this presentation, is that Gateway now is a company in transition. So Headley alluded to the recent transaction we did with Brightstar, sort of run through that and what it does for the company. We still have our ongoing assets on the ground in Western Australia. These are fantastic assets. It's a key part of the Australian gold space, place you want to be if you're after gold, exposure to gold, exploration upside and also development opportunities. Despite what people may say about WA and how it's not like it used to be, it's still the best place in Australia and best place in the world to not only discover a gold deposit but to permit it, get it up and going and bring it into production. We're still focused on our number one asset, our only asset, which is the Montague project. We made a few changes to that recently, which we'll go through. We're continuing to explore for these step change discoveries on the Montague project. It's still a fantastic project, underexplored in a part of WA that hasn't seen the level of exploration that a lot of the other goldfields in WA have. We've just finished this. We just signed this transaction with Brightstar about 5 weeks ago. We're in the process of completing it and getting the cash in the bank and the shares on the register for us. What this does is it really strengthens our balance sheet and leaves us with plenty of options going forward and what we can do with Gateway for our shareholders. We've got a number of targets that we're going to continue to explore at Montague, and these are some pretty exciting targets, both gold and also base metals there on the project. But the most important thing, and everyone always talks from an investment point of view about backing the people, we've got the people involved with Gateway that have got a track record of not only finding things but building companies, growing companies and developing these deposits. So in terms of Gateway, with our capital structure, one of the interesting things now, if we look pro forma at where we are when this transaction is completed, we'll have a negative enterprise value of about $5 million. So, really strong balance sheet, $13+ million worth of cash and liquid assets on the balance sheet. That's where we're currently sitting at the moment with our share price about 2.1 cents. Our major shareholders have been incredibly supportive, particularly our top 20, incredibly supportive of us over the journey. Our major shareholder there, Kerry, who a lot of people are familiar with in the audience, has been with us through the last sort of 6 years at Gateway, and the directors themselves making up a good proportion of the register as well. Talked about the leadership team and the people involved. This is the board. So our chairman, Peter Langworthy, again, another familiar face for a lot of people here at Resource Rising Stars. Some pretty successful companies he's been involved with there in the past. Myself, geologist, been involved in a lot of gold operations, gold exploration, and a few decent success stories there as well. Trent Franklin, highly experienced corporate advisor based in Sydney, been associated with Gateway for a long time. And Peter Lester, mining engineer, again involved with some pretty big companies, pretty successful transactions, background not only in operations but also in M&A and business development activities. So what's our strategy with Gateway? Pretty simply, it's to extract maximum value for our shareholders from Montague. We're a single project company in the Murchison goldfields of WA. We've been exploring this for a number of years. We discovered and delineated just over 500,000 ounces of gold, which we recently sold to Brightstar as part of a bit of a beginning of a regional consolidation. I'll go through that transaction in a little bit more detail. But the key thing here, if we look at that map, in this sandstone area, there's about 3 million ounces in resources, and up until 5 weeks ago, those 3 million ounces in resources basically sat in 3 junior companies, and not much had gone on in the area for a number of years. There was no active mining really since about 2005. So something had to change. There was a number of reasons why this hadn't been happening over the last few years, but Brightstar have come in and really taken the bull by the horns and got things happening, and we're excited to not only be part of that transaction but to remain significant exposure to the upside of what that presents, not only for the region from an operational point of view but also for Gateway and our shareholders. One of the keys with what we do and how we go about it, based on our background, is it's really about creating value through high quality exploration. So collecting high quality data sets, utilising all our experience and technical expertise to make the most of it and really generate value for shareholders. We are a gold company. We're primarily focused on gold. We're dabbling with a bit of copper base metal exploration as well on the project, just because of the opportunities that's presented itself to us. And then we've got some exposure to lithium, but really this is through a third-party transaction, which means that we're not distracting ourselves from our core business, which is exploring and finding and creating value from gold and base metal opportunities. One of the key things it does as well at the moment with this transaction and our strengthened balance sheet is it really, gives us opportunities for an opportunity for new projects and bringing new assets into the company and making more wealth for shareholders from that. Sorry, just go back. So the divestment of our gold rights to Brightstar. So really, you can see with our Montague project there. There's two main tenement groups: the Eastern Tenement Group there in blue, and the Western Tenement Group there in red. So the Eastern Tenement Group, we'd over the years delineated about just over 500,000 ounces of gold around that Montague granodiorite dome, which is a key geological feature there. We sold the gold rights to that Eastern Tenement Group off to Brightstar for $5 million in cash and 7 million Brightstar shares, and there's a delayed additional 2 million Brightstar shares upon the commencement of mining, which hopefully will be in the near future. We retained all the base metal rights on those and other mineral rights on those tenements, and importantly, on the red tenements there, the western side of the belt, we still retain all mineral rights there, so gold mineral rights as well as other minerals. And this is these are the areas that we're going to continue to tick along with our exploration in the background and really sort of expose what we have there. This just thought I'd take some time to outline the Brightstar transaction and why we were attracted to this from a Gateway board point of view, and John O'Goff will expand on this later when he presents for Brightstar. But really, I guess one of the things is that with our exposure to Brightstar scrip on our register, we're pretty much Brightstar's biggest cheerleaders at the moment. Every 0.2% of their share price increase is an extra $1 million on our balance sheet. So that's the way that we sort of try and simplify it. So as I mentioned before, there was 3 juniors in the sandstone area, and these resources have been sitting there undeveloped for a number of years. We saw, talking to Brightstar guys, Alex Rivera, who had a bit of a vision. They've got small-scale operations already going around Menzies there, a bit of toll treatment and underground south of Laverton, but they've got existing processing infrastructure and bigger resources there around Laverton. And Brightstar's strategy is to not only get Laverton up and going, but looking for creating a multi-hub gold producer, filling an investment void in the Australian gold landscape, which is there to be filled by an ambitious mid-tier in the future. And we sort of saw this and wanted to be part of that. So Brightstar's deal come in, the scheme of arrangement with Alto, and then the asset sale with ourselves. They've now got about 1.5 million ounces of resources around sandstone, and that now presents the critical mass of ounces that are needed to get some development happening in the sandstone region and really open up that area. And one of the upsides for us is that with our continued gold exploration, what it does is that there is going to be gold processing infrastructure in our local area, and there's a pathway there to crystallise any sort of value from any discovery that we make on our existing ground. So we talked about this high-value discovery focus. We are continuing to look for gold on those Western tenement groups. There's a lot of earlier stage exploration to be done there. Really prospective area. It's been traditionally ignored in the historical extraction and evaluation of the belt. There's a number of historical drill intercepts there to be followed up. Some key structural geological targets there from a gold endowment point of view. We've gone over the last sort of 18 months and really collected a lot of high quality base data for the belt. So did a project-wide structural and stratigraphic study, did some two-dimensional seismic surveying, and really what fell out of that is a greater understanding of the rocks there and the upside for Gateway. So on the eastern side of the belt, where we've retained the mineral rights apart from gold, we've really uncovered a fair bit of copper potential there. You can see some of the existing copper drill intercepts we've been actively drilling out there since about December last year, and we're really excited about the potential for copper discovery out on that eastern side of the belt. So the big thing with this intrusive hosted copper-nickel PGE target at Flame Tree, which we've been working on since December, and this come about really out of that two-dimensional seismic survey. in going back through and looking at the historical interpretation of the geology, we sort of realised that everything was actually dipping the other way. Traditionally, everyone's looked at the rocks dipping off to the west. This area at Flame Tree has seen some historic copper exploration in the past. You can see some of those shallow copper intersections there, 33 metres at 1.3% and the like. This is all oxide-hosted copper mineralisation that historically had been treated as a VMS type target. So there'd been a VMS model applied to this area with a westerly dip to the stratigraphy, and never really yielded any significant results beyond that oxide copper. In going back through the two-dimensional seismic, we realised that actually everything was dipping back the other way, and not only that, when we went back to the historical drilling and re-examined the geology there, we found that there was one hole there, GRC 283, which actually had intersected sulphide copper, nickel and PGE, and a bit of cobalt as well in the bottom of a hole for the geologically mined in the room. These sorts of signatures aren't oxide-hosted signatures. This is intrusive derived copper sulphides. We can see the sulphides in the drilling. We've got really excited about this. It's a different geological model, an intrusive hosted model similar to Nova, Bollinger and Voisey's Bay, these types of deposits elsewhere in the world. So we went back and drilled that hole 1014 in December, again intersected sulphide hosted copper, nickel, PGE mineralisation. And this has really given us the impetus to move this target forward and keep exploring it pretty aggressively. We've just finished an air core drilling program out here a couple of weeks ago, which is trying to map out this intrusion and really give us the geometry to then take the next step with further exploration at Flame Tree. Beyond that, we started to re-examine some of the other historical data in the area and come across this big Montague Range intrusion, which sits off to the northeast of Flame Tree. Historically, it had been targeted for copper and nickel in the 60s and 70s by companies like Inco and CRA. Went back through there and re-examined the data and saw there was a lot of this sort of magmatic signature sulphide type mineralisation sitting there in the historical data, and so we've just started to re-examine this Montague Range intrusion now. We've just finished a fine fraction soil sampling survey over the intrusion. You can see here the results, and what we've got there is the colours there of the soil sampling is the PGE minerals, and this is sort of showing that base of the intrusion, which is off on the eastern side there on the right-hand side of the diagram, is really fertile for PGEs, and there's existing copper and nickel and PGE intersections along that base of the sill. So we're going to be continuing to explore this in the near term. Going out there, we've got a crew mobilising in the next few weeks to go and detail, map and sample this intrusion and really start to delineate drill targets for us to follow up with drilling in the near future. Beyond that, when we start to apply that to a bigger scale at Montague, we can see this is the results of that two-dimensional survey we did. So that Montague granodiorite dome, which I mentioned before, where the gold deposits were that we sold off to Brightstar. But underneath that dome, you can see that same sort of intrusive corridor where we're starting to find things near surface, continue and dips underneath the dome there. There's a couple of big reflectors that were identified in the seismic survey, and at the time the interpretation of these things are either intrusions, mafic intrusions, or potentially massive sulphide bodies below the Montague granodiorite dome. But this is about 800 metres below surface, so really we want to explore these things near surface, generate the confidence in the targeting model and that the mineralisation's there before we go and launch into some pretty deep exploration later. And just briefly, we've got a bit of exposure to lithium on our ground. It's at sort of arm's length. We've did a deal with Premier One Lithium, who are a lithium exploration specialist company. They're farming into the lithium rights. Basically, it's Gateway is free carry to 80%. 80% of the equity in the lithium rights, retaining all the other mineral rights on these tenements. And one of the key components of this deal is that Premier One have to spend 50% of that money to earn in direct drilling costs. So we get access to that data through this deal with Premier One, and we're free carried all the way to any sort of discovery DFS for lithium. So in terms of the key investment takeaways, Gateway, which has been around for a while and a lot of people are familiar with the story, you know, we're still exposed to this fantastic project in WA, but now we've gone through this recent transaction with Brightstar. We've got a strong balance sheet, we've got cash in the bank, we've got liquid assets of over $13 million and hopefully growing. That's what we wanted to be exposed to. And what this does is it gives us optionality. We've got the optionality of the exploration upside in Montague. We've also got the optionality to take advantage of other projects that are available and maybe sitting unloved in a major's portfolio, or maybe sitting in another junior that is currently struggling to raise that cash to be able to suitably explore it or develop that project. And we're in a great position now, not only with that balance sheet, but the people involved with the company to be able to get hold of these assets and take advantage of them for the shareholders of Gateway. So thanks for your time. Enjoy your morning tea. And if you have any questions, come and see us out at the booth just out on the right-hand side.